through the housekeeping slides, and then we're going to get into a discussion. This discussion is supposed to be very interactive, so please feel free to go off mute and shoot your question. Or if not, you can just put it in the chat. Autumn is going to be moderating the chat today. I just wanted to let everybody know that probably the first part of this meeting is going to be recorded, and then Jeremy is going to let us know when he's going to get into the top secret stuff, and that's when we're going to stop. So that's why it's so important that you join live so that you don't miss out all the sneaks and all the top secret stuff that Jeremy has to share with us. If you don't wish to participate in the live recording, we are going to send you a link so that you can watch this later on. So feel free to hop off right now. Otherwise, we're moving forward. No self-promotion. Please do not contact people outside of the user group without their consent. And if a user group member share their use case at the meeting, please don't share that information. This is for information purposes and for everybody's learning. So let's be respectful of that. Here are some, now we're doing some promotion of Adobe products. So Adobe Workfront Perspectives is a great tool to learn from real world use cases. Some of these perspectives are articles written by yours truly, Autumn, and other Adobe champions and Adobe users. Highly recommended. I have found really great information there and I've learned a lot. So if you're interested in reading, you can check out that QR code or just look for perspectives in the experience lead.
And I'll just add really quickly to that as well. If there's a topic that you want to discuss or you want someone to give a deeper dive, send that out on an Experience Lead post and someone will see it. Adobe champion will see it. Someone else will see it, maybe an Adobe employee themselves. And we're happy to get that information out. The purpose of Experience Lead is to get the information you guys need to be able to use the Adobe tools right. Thanks, Cass.
Thank you for adding that, Autumn. If you don't have enough AI in the conversation today, you can join the Let's Talk AI community group. You can check out that QR code or join the conversation on Experience League. Also, Adobe is asking for your feedback. If you want to take 10 minutes to review Workfront on Gartner Peer Insights, you can check out that link or scan that QR code, and you will receive a $25 gift card when your review is published.
I used mine at Lowe's this morning.
I got a massager. That's what I got from mine.
Ooh, very nice.
A neck massager. And then finally, this is a little self-promotion for our user group. Stay connected with our chapter. Unless you join and you register, you're not going to receive notifications from us for new meetings that we're going to have in the future. So you want to either scan that QR code or follow the usergroups.adobe.com link that's there on your screen, and stay in touch with us. Happy to have you. And then enough of me talking. Now I would like to present Jeremy Flores. I'll give him the opportunity to give his bio and introduce himself. But thank you, Jeremy, for taking some of your really, really busy time to be here with us and show us all new with AI and Workfront.
Thanks, Cass and Autumn. Thanks, everybody. It's good to be with you. I was just thinking how embarrassing it would have been if I was wearing the same shirt from my picture. I'm so glad that I change my clothes every now and then. It's good to be with you guys, though.
You would have been matching, though. You would have been matching with us.
I would have been matching, but I looked at the picture and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I changed my clothes. Even though I've been heads down, working on a bunch of different things, every now and then it's good to get ready and look professional and be with a bunch of other professionals. So thank you guys for having me. I wanted to start with, there's a lot we could go into today. So as I'm sharing some things, I invite you all to stop and ask questions, and let's have a discussion. I'm hoping that it doesn't have to be presentation, wait till the very end, you guys get a minute to ask questions, and then I'm out. I'm hoping that's not the case. So I will share some visuals just because I like to show things to react to. I'm actually going to start with one that's a little bit more tongue-in-cheek, a little bit more funny. But how many of you actually relate to this image. We're going to give some credit to Liz Fosslien here. Has anybody seen this before? Can we measure it against what we actually want it to do?
Yeah, the laundry would be nice.
Right? Who agrees with that? So let me,
I love
if
it.
it's too small, let me make it a little, let me see if I can.
Slightly bigger would be a little bit better. Yeah.
Let's see if we can go a little bit bigger. That's not working, unfortunately. So here, let me read it just in case you can't see it. So it says wishful and observed capability category. So in the blue is what Liz wishes AI could actually do. So like the laundry, tell me what kind of leaf this is, soothe me, the dishes, answer my emails. And then the red shows what AI can actually do.
The flood.
I love it.
Flood all my feeds with slop. That's what AI is really good at doing, apparently. Who wishes to bring coffee or find your keys or even give you gossip, right? So again, being a little facetious, I also saw this one and thought that, wow, can my people relate to this? And by my people, I mean us work management enthusiasts, right? You got leadership here on the left. I don't get it. We have the models. Why isn't the business changing? Productivity over here. And the reality is, you know, I don't know if there's admins on the phone who can relate to this, but you're left kind of holding everything. The data, we don't have good data. The process, we've got a little bit of that. We can do a little bit of training. We haven't even thought about change.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little attacked at the moment, so.
Yeah, I agree, Christina. Getting magically better overnight does not exist unless you have no processes currently in place.
Amen.
That's absolutely right.
So right. And
training pillar getting cut from the budget. I love that one, Elizabeth. That one's great.
What did she say? Frame what?
The training pillar is always getting cut from the budget.
Yep. Yep. I can relate. Yeah. So, I mean, we think about this and we think, okay, there is a lot going on. Everybody's just trying to stay on top of different things. For those who have not heard, we just released one capability that I'm going to talk a little bit more about. There's others, but one that just released this last week. There's even some people who are on the phone who actually helped contribute to a lot of the way that this was made. So if I ever get founding team shirts or stickers, those will be coming your way to some of you, because I know some of you actually provided insight into this, use cases, support, all of the goodness that is AI Collaborator. So for those who haven't heard, this is our most recent, this is why I've been busy. Heads down, allowing any agent to be able to connect to an existing Workfront project. And then it gives you the ability to assign these agents, whether you're using Copilot, Writer, or Claude, to tasks inside of Workfront so that you can start to trust and govern that output. So this is mostly what I'm going to talk about today, but there are other things that I am going to want to dive into. But let me actually start with a few stats real quick. So AI Collaborators was actually born because of a problem that we saw. This problem that we saw, I'm going to talk about it here, is a little bit of an over-rotation to fully agent production workflows. So people were going in and using these, common platforms, ChatGPT, Claude, and what we were finding is that a lot of them were actually using them on a very individualistic approach. So 10 to 20%, based on a study that we did with BCG, found a 10 to 20% uplift in personal productivity, which is great, right? Awesome. All of us want to be productive. But for those who saw that graphic that I showed before, when you're trying to move a team or a group or an enterprise or a department, it's just a completely different ballgame. And we all know that, right? So nothing wrong with the individual productivity. But what happens when you're trying to orchestrate multiple teams, multiple campaigns, multiple initiatives, and there's a lot of maybe globally distributed people? It makes it a lot more difficult. So what we also found at the same time was that 60% of enterprises haven't unlocked the value because of some of the missing structure. 53% of AI POCs never reach production due to lack of adoption frameworks or unified guidelines. I was actually on a call with Anthropic last Friday talking about AI collaborators because they too are very interested in how we're approaching the enterprise, as you can imagine. And they were saying the exact same thing. They were saying, you know, Jeremy, it's so interesting. And they're super excited about this offering, by the way. But they were just like, it's just amazing how many people want to use these agents. How many people are just anxious to get this stuff going. But at the same time, how many people are just so anxious because they don't want agent sprawl like they used to deal with enterprise SaaS sprawl, right? So many tools for so many different teams. Well, at the same time, the agent economy can exacerbate that if it's not managed very well. So as you can see here, by 2028, and these are real stats. If you're interested in the studies, let us know. We can send you the resources that you can see they're sourced here at the bottom. But by 2028, folks, it's 2 years. There will be 150K agents per large enterprise, up from fewer than 15 in 2025. And by 2027, by next year, it's crazy. We're already in, we're in Adobe's Q3, but going to be in Adobe's Q4 next month, right? So we're already heading into the holidays. And I know I'm stretching it a bit, but if you think about that, 75% of enterprises will call the methodology they use to monitor agents their most important AI tool. So how do we put the governance, the scaffolding in place? Yeah, jump in, Autumn.
I was going to say, I'm blown away by this because coming from a client, from not being on the client side, the consulting side, we have our own agents, right? And we're starting to work towards it. But seeing 150,000, I believe it. I see we've got developers creating their own every single day. And that enterprise guardrail that you're talking about is just so important, insanely important.
And it's not difficult to create agents, right? Like at least maybe putting them into production, again, different ball game. But I remember when Copilot launched maybe a year and a half ago, and one of the things that we do internally is we have to make sure that all of our product related work, right? Things that we're going to build for customers are pretty tight because they go up to leadership. What are you guys investing in? What is the purpose of the objective? And so we do a lot of writing. It gets so mundane. And so we built an objective headline agent that pretty much writes these headlines so they're nice and tight. And we've been using that for a while, but again, it was outside of the system. Yeah. So it kind of comes back to this point of like a business can't see or govern its own participants. It doesn't scale unless there's that visibility. All it does is it makes people a little anxious, maybe not the highest level leaders, right? They're wanting to get it going, but those who actually knows what it takes to implement this across, their department in a way that is safe and responsible, it can be a little tricky.
Even in our own organization, our department, we kind of at the beginning opened up the floodgates and we just let everybody experiment with everything. And now we've reached that point where, okay, we let everybody play. We've expanded. Everybody loves AI and we got everybody trained. Now we have to establish some guardrails because we just can't let everybody connect the MCPs with every single tool. We have to be very conscious about how we're doing that. So we took like 3 steps back and we're talking about data structure, the taxonomy, so that everybody can be speaking the same language. And then, okay, you want to create an agent and you want to connect it. You need to tell us the entire use case. We have to approve it. It's not we don't want to delay things. We don't want to kind of stifle people excitement and creativity, but we do want to govern it and we want to make sure that everybody understands how it's being used. So super important what you just said, Jeremy.
Yeah, and thank you for providing us such a solid example of like that autonomy with governance. And it's interesting too, because I know some of us are in different industries. And when you say the word governance, it just sounds so like, official, like it's going to take forever. There's all these standards and these rules. And I don't know that we're saying that, right? I know you're not saying that, but what we're saying is, look, everybody, we all want to be productive and we all want to learn. And I think that's the power of what you're saying, Cass, is like, We let people play so you can learn, so you can understand what works, so that you can find that diamond in the rough, right? That really makes your team so much better because of XYZ. But at the same time, one of the things that I think that we have, those that are the Workfront enthusiasts, as to our advantage, is even though SaaS is kind of like taking a back seat, or really taking a back seat, right? And you're seeing these new agentic platforms come out, these new AI tools that are AI first. What the AI tools are missing and having to take a step back on is what we're calling kind of like that stateful experience. We want to put a project, and I'm just using that as an example, but an object that is visible and collaborative. And we're going to put structure inside of it because this is the way that our business does things better. And I know that a lot of customers, you kind of get the whole, no one adopts Workfront challenge unless they've actually used it. And then after a little bit, it actually grows on them. And then they start to realize like, oh, okay, I can now see why this is beneficial, because I can now go take PTO off and I've got some work that someone else can take on because it's visible, right? So these AI pioneers, there's a bunch of them who we've worked with. You guys are part of some of you are part of that, right? You know that the focus on the processes, the handoffs, that's all like gold. It's almost like gold rush for these AI platforms, because you already kind of know the patterns that have been established in how work should be done, so that your quality output can be done. So I think you guys know this, right? 3x productivity. Some customers are reducing their cycle time by 80% using agents. But here's what that means. It means going from that one-to-one assistant, I'm the hero, to how do we make the team or the group that's trying to orchestrate on a single deliverable more productive. And that's where we start to see this shift from like AI assistants to more of these enterprise agentic deployments. I'm going to pause here for a second because I can't see the audience, but I just want to hear from people. And if you can come off mute, where would you guys say you guys are at in this journey? Are you still seeing, a lot of what you're seeing on the left side of this screen? You still in kind of like these proof of concepts? Or are there things that you guys have done to make it so that you can move to more of an enterprise or team-based deployment?
So I'll kick us off. So at Proficient, I would say we're definitely on the enterprise agentic deployment schedule. We have a few things that already run. We do still use that one-on-one AI assistant quite a bit. That one is pretty well known for the overall base of our employees, but that enterprise agentic deployment is getting there rather quickly. And we've got, I think we're about at 20 is our number of the ones that are fully deployed and usable within our system across all platforms, not just Adobe's.
Okay. So fair to say that instead of like the experimental phase, you've probably moved to more of like controlled expansion.
Yeah.
And somewhere maybe in between controlled expansion and full scale transformation. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So for example, we've built systems with using Vertex AI that goes from AEM to maybe, take a company's 5,000 pages and transfer it over to a new environment or something along those lines. But it's also on top of that, it's creating tickets in Jira. It's giving you everything based off of Figma comps. So there's that whole genuine flow that happens.
Awesome.
Triggered by events. Yeah.
Okay. Well, be thinking about that, others on the phone, because we know that it isn't necessarily an easy thing to do. There's a lot that goes into it. Now, Workfront. Oh, go ahead.
As I said, we've got two things in the chat. We've got Brittany says that does Claude count? So I think Claude counts as the one-on-one AI assistant. And then Lindsay mentioned that marketing has a dedicated initiative to build and adopt agents. But IT tells us that we're ahead of most other departments.
Okay. That sounds pretty similar to what I think other customers have said as well. So that's great. One of the things that we also had thought about when we were approaching this new offering and some of the other things that are coming down the pipe are how do we go to market in a way that like resonates, right? And what we've really come to is it is this notion of human and agent work. you're already doing it inside of your templates. It's mostly human to human or human to fusion if you're using those automations, right? But how do we actually help other people understand that humans still play a really critical role? And so how do we know that you're ready? How can we take an agent into your work operation, into your process? That's one of the things that we have outlined here. The first thing is start to think about that shared enterprise context. Cass, you talked a little bit about it, the taxonomy, the metadata. We are looking into ways to help you understand what your Workfront data means to you. And I'll show an example of that here in a minute. But like, there is this enterprise context that customers have established. It's not fully inside of Workfront. I get that, right? Your policies, the way that you operate, SOPs, there's a lot of stuff outside of Workfront that can help provide that context. But if we can take these 4 steps to start unifying some of that and start bringing some of that in, that will actually help these agents and these collaborators perform better. For those that are already following things like context windows, right? We also know that providing too much context isn't great and it's not cost efficient. So we know agents run on tokens, and if there's context that's just too much, that also doesn't provide an advantage to the enterprise. So we'll show an example of how we can kind of meet in the middle, still provide enough guidance, enough governance, or maybe even standards that these agents can abide by. And some of the more like practical terms that you could look at are like your templates. Your templates are steps that need to be taken, ideally with context that's already provided. Now, all of it might not be in there, but if it is living in a program, a portfolio, a Workfront planning record where there's more information, these will eventually make it so that you can ingest that context and use it for repeated use. So step 3 is setting governance for every agentic action, defining the permissions, and then connecting your entire ecosystem. I will send this out for those who are interested. This is where collaborators comes into play. So for those who haven't heard, a collaborator is not an agent in and of itself. A collaborator is using the structure, the stateful system that Adobe is, right? And all I mean by that is digital users that are getting put on work that has a status, project, or a status of a task, right? And right now it's still very manual. So humans, for the most part, need to come in and mark a task off. And I know no one's doing that or using Fusion to automate that. But this is where we start to enter a different era. So a collaborator is a permissioned user, and it can connect to an agent that can then be assigned to tasks to execute those tasks. I want to pause here for a minute because I think the clarity of a task is still a really important concept, and it's not very difficult, right? Everybody knows that a task is a work item, a finite amount of work that's a lot smaller than a project. And so if you think about that construct already, these collaborators are meant to be specialized, almost role-based collaborators. Now, in the future, if they need to evolve to more of like a multi-purpose agent, that's something we'll consider. But for now, these are just a way for teams to delegate work, that finite ask, to a collaborator that's kind of been tuned to do really well at that task. So you'll see in this example, we have one that is a Copilot copywriter. I'll give a live demo of that. But there's a myriad of finite things that are being asked to be done. We're hearing customers saying, I want a research collaborator that's really good at research. And for those, again, who are following AI, might use Perplexity or some of the more cost-efficient models that have been tweaked or fine-tuned for research. There's other models, right? If you're running financial information, then you probably want a more precise model for that. If you're running in manufacturing, right, there's different models for the different types of workflows. So what we're saying here is it's still really important to bring human intelligence and marry that with agentic capability. Now, we'll learn there's best practices out there already, but this is really what opens the door to allow you to bring these agents into your workflows and monitor them on a more smaller scoped item. right?
So a quick question in the chat, Jeremy, from Andrew. He says, was it always the design for AI collaborators to be external agents to Adobe/Workfront? He's getting the sense in previous sessions like this that AI collaborators, not having a good time with that word today, were going to be internal models configurable in Workfront. That could easily have been a misunderstanding from him. So he's just looking for a little bit more clarity on the external agents with them.
Yeah, honesty is one of my favorite policies, Andrew, so I appreciate the question. Originally, we were actually wanting to make collaborators a little bit more open and more of like a natural agent creation mechanism. But what we realized is, again, we're Adobe, so there's a lot going on. We had another team that was focused on like a natural language interface, which is called Coworker. So for those who have not heard of Coworker, I'll talk a little bit about that as well. But that's essentially like an AI first chat interaction that's going to be powered by all of the different Adobe tools. So we did change a little bit the direction because we didn't want to conflict with that. We wanted to make it so that we could complement that. And so as part of that approach, one of the things that we also learned was that, I can't remember who said it on the phone earlier, maybe it was you, Autumn, but we learned that a lot of our customers were like, look, we already have agents. We've been training them for years. All I need to do is plug them in. So that's where we were like, okay, we can essentially accommodate both, whether you're like creating an Adobe agent, using an Adobe agent, or using a third party, which is kind of where we're going now. But it did pivot a little bit to answer your question.
And I do like how you guys are going about that approach of making it customizable, but also giving us the opportunity to select what we want ourselves. It's not one specific system that we have to use. It can be what the company dictates.
Yeah, and I think, you know, part of being a good kind of enterprise contributor is you learn very quickly where you're the best at and where you're not the best at. And you know, our goal isn't to compete with Anthropic. They're going to be cutting edge and on the front of the top models. But our goal is to be able to make it so that we can really become that substrate. And what I mean by that is show the Anthropics and the other teams that like agents aren't really good without work context, or, you know, without the structure that a lot of our other enterprise teams have put in place. So
good, Jeremy. I remember being on early calls when we were discussing AI, and I remember saying, like, why are we reinventing the wheel? Like, we already have agents that are working, that are doing all of this. Like, why can't I connect it with all the data that I have in Workfront and just let it run? So I'm so glad for that pivot, and like I really do appreciate that Adobe is open to listening to what customers are saying. So I just wanted to say kudos to you guys for really making that happen, because this is going to be a game changer for us.
Well, and kudos back to you guys. Again, customer input is really critical. We do listen, but yeah, we'll see how it turns out. This will just show you real quickly, and then I'll just jump into the demo after this so you can see it in real life. This is showing how it works. Now, I will say, this isn't the best graphic, and the only reason why is because technically these two boxes should live inside of this box. So I just want to caveat with that. But essentially, the way that this works is you, in most cases, or what we were hearing is, we've got our agents, and this one just happens to be a copywriter agent that is built in Copilot. It already had been trained thanks to the customer we worked with. She was incredible. She was just like, again, Jeremy, we've trained it for a year. It knows us. And that's powerful when it knows you, right? And so ultimately what we did is we built this system to connect it. Workfront brings the user. We already encase it inside of the permission model, encase it inside of the collaboration model, already bring it with the context, right? We know that not everyone has perfect context, but in many cases, there are really disciplined people who come in and say, look, this is what we're going to need, where you can find the information. The collaborator has access to it. It sees it. It can reference it. It can parse it. It can read your custom fields. And then ultimately, you have the control to determine where you want that output returned. What we obviously built is, we're trying to keep it so that it stays within the confines of the project, because that's what makes it easier for people to kind of stay coordinated and on track. But ultimately, this is just showing you kind of how it works. There's an API call that's made. It goes into the reasoning, and then it listens to kind of some of the controls that you've set up on the Workfront side to either post a comment, upload a document, change the status, and more that'll be coming down the road. So how do you make these successful? And then we'll jump into the demo. I think the first thing is just reminding ourselves that all you really need to do after you've got the agent and the connection established is assign it to a task. We can then start to hold AI accountable. You're going to see in the demo that it shows you what the AI did when the human came. It's context aware, it's easy to get started, and it's scalable. So I am going to real quickly jump to a demo live. If you give me a second, we'll jump to the right screen. And I'm going to actually start inside of Copilot. Okay. So, shut my door as well. This is Copilot. There will be different kind of authentication credentials for the platform provider that you're using. If you do have questions later about how to connect to Claude or how to connect to Writer, please let us know. We've established some initial connections there, but can also walk you through any of these if needed. So in this example, you're going to see here, we have a copyright.
If you were sharing your screen, I'm not seeing anything. So I think you stopped sharing on accident if you were showing.
Let's see if I can get that going again.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling it out. Can you see it now?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. So here I am inside of Copilot Studio. I am logged in under just this is an account that we use internally that we've been given. So you will have to get these credentials, and I would imagine that most of your IT teams would have them, assuming you're using Copilot. But once you come in and can get access, or they can give you access, you can manage your agents here. I'm going to go ahead and pick this agent that helps us with copywriting. Now you'll see this is just kind of your standard agent provider. You can come in here, pick the different models, come in here and feed it instructions, just so that you know exactly kind of what it's going to do. Another simple recommendation for those who have built agents is after use agents to build the instructions. They're really good at doing that. But ultimately, once you've done that, you can come in here and go to settings. Once you select settings, you're going to see I need to go to security. And in the security area, at least for Copilot, it generates these authentication credentials for every agent that you set up. So here you'll see I've got a secret is what they call it. Any one of these would work, which has been copied to my clipboard. I'm now going to come into Workfront's AI collaborators and make that connection. So if you're an administrator, how I got here is I went to setup. AI collaborators is right under the recycle bin. If you're not seeing that, then let us know or let your account team know. Task collaborators, what I'm going to set up right now, does not require an AI writer to be signed. The AI reviewer collaborator, which we launched at Summit, does. So task collaborators are the newest unlock. This is what we launched last week. As you can see here.
While you're right here, there's actually a question in the chat by Ross, and I think that's showing this project coordinator is really good. So he asks if there's any way that he's seen it done by task-based, but several of his agents and tasks he does in Claude rely on Workfront data that are tied to a specific. They aren't tied to a specific project. So in an ideal world, perhaps I could have a user-based collaborator to use skills like fill out my timesheet, prepare status documents across all my projects, and schedule meetings. So just trying to figure out, I guess, what's like the roadmap for other AI collaborators outside of task projects and reviewers.
That is a really interesting use case. There is on the roadmap the ability to start to make collaborators integrated with like the user attributes, so that they can start to begin to leverage user context. Okay. But that that doesn't necessarily mean that there would be a user-based collaborator here. We could do that,
Okay.
but we definitely want to hear from more customers. Ross, I trust you. I know that you're doing amazing things. But if there is more demand, let us know, because that's how I prioritize. But yeah, that's an awesome use case.
Thanks.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead with the demo real quick. We'll go ahead and set this up. This is going to be called a new copywriter. And I'm just going to do this real quickly because I did this morning. So you'll just see here. I'm going to go ahead and give it an access level. Keep in mind, if you're setting this up and you give it an access level where it can't do any of these actions here at the bottom, it's probably the access that's not permitting it. So I just want to call that out. But in this case, I'm going to just do a standard. Here's where you can come in and see those default connectors: Copilot, Claude, Writer. We do want to support others. We're looking at OpenAI. There's a restriction on their side, not the Adobe side, just to be clear, that we're working through. Once they unlock that, then there will be other providers here. We also have the ability to connect a custom agent. So we use Glean internally for some of our development, and we actually have a connector there. But if you're using a different connector, let us know. We can pretty much connect to almost any agent that is integratable, for lack of a better term. So I'm going to come in here. We'll go to Copilot. If you guys remembered, I had that secret copied. It looks like that wasn't right because that was short. So I'm going to come back in here and recopy it. Come back in here, paste it, test the connection. And now the collaborator is actually connected. If you get a green is go. You can come in here and say, what do you want it to do after it's done its job? I just want it to post a comment and upload a document. So I'm going to go ahead and just save that. This provisions the user on the back end. It's literally creating a user in the system and making it an assignable entity. So we'll just give that a minute to do its job. It's now ready. You can see here in this area, I can start to manage my different collaborators. I'm now going to jump to a project and assign it and watch it go to work. So here's an example of a quick project. You can see here, there's a bunch of different tasks that have been done. To keep this example pretty simple, I'm going to come into this task details. You're going to see that we're asking for copy for a campaign. Make sure to provide some very specific instructions. At the same time, here is some information, additional metadata. So even if I were to come in here and like change this location, I'm just going to do capital and we're going to change it to Arizona. We're going to go ahead and save that. And the context is here. We're now going to go ahead and assign this to my new copywriter.
And while you're doing that, Andrew asked, is the collaborator user a user that consumes a standard license?
They do consume, not anymore.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Andrew? I think I got a reply as well from Monique saying no. Okay, cool. And are collaborators available in Workfront Planning Workload Balancer as well?
Available in Workload Balancer for bulk assignment, not available in planning yet.
Thank you.
What's on the roadmap is, so as you can see here, like this is a live example, right? I just assigned the copywriter. It gave me this message, I'm working. And it literally is, it's reading context on the project. The next iteration of that would make it so that it could read context in planning. But an actual collaborator in planning, no, is not available right now. Now, you're going to notice something. Real-time updates hasn't been added right now, right? So it did tell me that it's off to work. If I refresh the page, it should have changed the status, which it did here. So if I was, project manager and I had status exposed, I would know that this task that I assigned to the collaborator is in progress. We are working on a much more kind of like stronger affordance so that if project managers assign multiple collaborators, that they know like kind of what they're doing. But we don't have that in the software yet. We have it in prototypes that I'm more than happy to show. anybody who's interested. So it's still doing its job. It hasn't provided the copy yet. We're still kind of waiting for it to provide the initial copy. While we're waiting, I'm actually going to come back in and just make sure that it does what I wanted it to do. So in this example, I only wanted it to post a comment, whereas in the other collaborator that we set up, I wanted a comment and an uploaded artifact. So let's jump back. Let's see if it's completed its task yet. It still is working. So what we'll do is, in the meantime, I'm going to show you a couple other examples that I was playing with earlier. One was this Jorge, the Spanish translator. This was one that I had created maybe a few weeks ago. And I was trying this one with Claude. So if I come back in and kind of look at the setup, you'll see on this one is using Claude, and it is still connected through different set of credentials. And again, we do have this configured so that if you're like, where do I get this, Jeremy? Like, I'm never going to remember this. It'll take you in here. And again, because not every AI platform provider has standardized the way they allow auth through their agents, it is a little different, where you saw with Copilot, I had to grab one token. With Claude, I have to grab an API key, an agent ID, and an environment ID. So few more steps, but would love your feedback as you guys are trying this. Is it still too complicated? Is there things we could do to make it easier? What we've heard so far is once you can get like the authorization credentials from either your IT team or whoever manages that, it seems to go pretty well. But again, I want to hear from you guys, customers. Please, you're not going to offend me. If there's things we can do to make it easier, let us know. I did come back, as you saw, to the task. The copywriter has provided the copy. I can go ahead and expand here, and you can see that it went and did its thing. It used the metadata. It used the instructions. You can see the metadata. We had changed that to Arizona. Let's see here. You can see it incorporated that. We mentioned not to use the word private, which it didn't do. But ultimately, the collaborator came in and took its first pass, so that now a human can come in and give it its last view of polish and mark the task complete. Now, again, for those who want a little bit more autonomy, I could have actually set this to also mark the task complete, and the agent would have taken care of that for me. So when I did the V2, I think that's what I had done. And if I were to rerun this, oh, it looks like I didn't mark that. I could have marked it, and it would have done all three of those things. So that's a demo. Any comments or questions or feedback?
Yeah, I think this is wonderful. Let's see. We've got Brittany loves this. Cassandra thinks it's very intuitive. Lorena likes all the details. Getting to it. Ross wants to, can you reply to that comment and have the agent refine? Is what he was asking in that little demo that you did.
Not right now, but that is our number one thing that we're working to push out by like next week or the week after. That was our number one feedback, is people were like, I can't reply to it. So what we're doing is we're going to allow you to reply to it, and it can run its like next pass. And we're also going to allow you to @mention the collaborator so that you can invoke it without an assignment.
That's wonderful. I love to hear that. Stacy asked, what can the task agent get information from anywhere on the project if it has the correct instructions?
Should be able to. Yeah.
Should be able to. Okay. Are you finding any time that it's not working well? Like, is there a specific scenario that tends to fail more often than pass that you feel comfortable sharing with us, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, we've seen a couple instances where the document doesn't upload for whatever reason.
Okay. That's not been uncommon. I remember when I was using Copilot a year and a half ago, it would say, here's your document. And then it would never give me anything over and over and over again. I'm like, where's my document? So that is definitely something I've seen before. And can you talk a little bit more about the structure of AI collaborators and when it comes to tokens and when every time you use an AI collaborator, what is that price point on customers and how does that flow?
Yeah, it's a good question. The token cost is absorbed on your provider side, right?
Okay.
Because you're using your agents. So Adobe doesn't charge for that. We
Okay.
don't charge you a license either for like setting it up.
Okay. That's great. Okay, so Bra says amazing. So thank you for great feedback. William asks, will the teams share AI collaborators or should teams build their own to tailor more to their needs and use cases?
I have an opinion, but I want to hear from William.
William, do you mind coming off mute or sharing in the chat? Yeah.
What would you expect?
He can come off mute. Yeah, go ahead. I think you should be able to. Cass, do we need to give him grant access? Here we go. Let me make you a presenter and then you might be able to talk. Can you try now?
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
Perfect, thanks. Great session, guys. Really enjoying it. At our scale, I've worked with one of the 4 hyperscalers, and we're working through Workfront right now. So you can imagine at our scale, we're looking at AI collaborators right now, and we have, let's say, potentially triple-digit teams coming into Workfront. So you can imagine, Jeremy, I'm looking at governance. I'm looking at how can we build like a AI collaborator template or library, for example, to enable teams to onboard faster, to standardize processes faster, to triage things faster. So I think my answer would be to this team at our scale, we would have to tailor like a book of agents with AI collaborator hook-ins to meet these teams' needs.
Okay. That's interesting to us, William, because the approach right now has been, okay, if I come in and create one, only an administrator can right now. But what we've heard is from customers is like, hey, I hope this doesn't shock many of you, but like, I may want to loosen those reins a little bit because I have maybe AI leaning people in my organization who are like really good operators who know our processes better, and we're getting bottlenecked at the admin level. So we do have on our roadmap this idea. There's kind of 2 things. One is, how do we start to give the collaborator a profile, not just an identity? We've already given it an identity, which means, and I didn't show this, but I should have, so I will, to kind of answer your question at the same time, right? What I mean by that is, if we come back to this example, I'm actually going to show you the example from this morning. You'll see I actually assigned in this activity, I had a different copywriter that came in, provided the copy. I didn't want it to complete the task because I wanted to come in and give it the review, but I then had myself assigned and I came in here to complete it. So
I think that's a very easy use case too. I can't foresee many people letting the AI agent just do it without seeing at least some sort of level of human review.
Yeah, and it's exactly right? Like William's talking about scale and different teams coming in, but what we're saying is, as long as it's in this stateful experience, we can start to attribute what it's done. We can build templates in the future if that's what's needed. We can make it, if I click on this right now, this new collaborator, it actually will take me to a profile page. But some of this stuff kind of goes back to Ross's comment. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a collaborator that's pretty much acting as an agent, right? So we do want to lean into that though. So if you want, team-based or role-based collaborators, that's on the backlog. But there's a bunch of things that we have to consider, security being the biggest one. Like, how do we do this without an administrator? What is that?
Would you consider this as like a group admin opportunity function instead of a true system administrator?
Yeah, there's kind of 3 prongs. It's like admins can do it now. Ideally, we go group admins next, and then we go standard users who admins trust. So maybe we open it up. Let's say William has a team and they have 2 people who aren't admins, but they know what it is that needs to be done. They create the collaborator, and maybe it gets sent to the admin who then promotes it. Maybe that's one way we could approach it, but we haven't nailed it exactly yet. So more feedback like this helps us.
Fantastic. Raul asks, can it fill out custom forms on the task level based on an input?
Soon. Not yet, but soon.
Not soon. Okay. Let's see. So Ross just mentioned, I'd rather give my teams their own AI collaborator tool set versus setting them loose with MCP and adding another AI tool, which I absolutely can understand that.
Ross, can you share how you would want that to happen? Could you have time for that?
30. Yeah, give me 2 seconds just to let him be a presenter. And now Ross can share if he doesn't mind.
Got to click all the buttons to get on.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, like, I'm over here in Claude like 50% of the time doing project management because I have the MCP. So it's updating Workfront tasks. It's putting things on my calendar. It's looking for availability across teams. It's keeping my timelines updated when things shift. It's doing my timesheet. It's running status documents across multiple context threads and stuff like that. But to me, like right now, I'm sharing some of those skills with some other AI-centric folks in our organization, right? But they also have to have Claude, where I don't necessarily want to train everybody how to use Claude, how to talk to a skill and stuff like that. So in my mind, governance is creating that AI collaborator that we use as a consistent AI tool within Workfront, which is where like I get stuck with this. It's great that I can assign it or I can call it with an @ thing, but like I just want to do basic user level AI agentic stuff with my Workfront data. In addition to being able to, yes, assign things to a task. So I have repeatable actions taking place on a project. But again, that's where that is providing me the governance, is that it's actually happening within Workfront. Like I don't want my project managers to be both in Workfront and in Claude. Like they should be Workfront. Like that's the platform. And AI Assistant is AI Assistant, but I need bigger, robust tool set that can also communicate with other platforms in our organization to have that that contextual layer that it needs to be able to give the results like I get today at Claude.
The one thing I would say, Ross, that I do agree with you in the sense, but sometimes it might not always be that case. So what I just heard you say is you want them to stay in Workfront or you want them to be in Claude, one or the other. But what happens if you're in Claude doing something else and something comes to mind and then, instead of having to go into the system, hey, Claude, can you just go change the status on here because someone just stopped by my desk and add something and I'm already in the Claude system? I think that is like a simple, very simple use case of being able to do both.
Now that I have it in Slack, so like I'm really doing Workfront.
Even better, exactly.
Claude connector within Slack. So it's getting crazy of like all of the entry points of all of this. So I'm trying to figure out, like, it's hard to roll it out because it's like, well, what's that consistent entry point for everybody? Interface that they already understand and can use that we can also provide a level of governance around. And like step one is like a shared skill, but again, like in Claude, that gets customized, at a user level as they use that skill.
And I think what you're describing too, Ross, is like for those that are on the call, like who haven't used the MCP is about, like what Ross said, being in an AI platform, getting answers or getting information, right? Like that's really what you're doing. And you're doing it probably a little bit for other use cases you outlined, like keeping the timesheet and doing status reports, which is good.
Reporting.
But the collaborator, but the collaborator is more about like invoking agents to accomplish work. And so when you hear about like this tool set, I think it's interesting, but like what would be the thing that we could do to unlock your project managers the most? Is it shared skills that they can just tap into? Or is it like these collaborator templates that William's talking about? Like, that's what I want to hear from like, how do we unlock them? Because we're doing both and building a new experience as well. But What should we
So
do?
we are at time. So thank you, Jeremy. I think Mary has a really good comment here, so we can just do this one very briefly, and then we'll close out here. So thinking out loud, and please tell me if this is not a good use of these AI collaborators, but we have human users who struggle with putting tasks in progress. Been there, get that. And instead start doing things like getting proofs approved, etc. Could we use an agent that identifies that work is starting and marks that task in progress and adds a comment that's basically, looks like you started working. I'm marking your task as in progress.
Yeah, that would be, so we could do something like that, and even Fusion can do something like that.
Yeah.
But where I would advise it's not the best use case is it's not necessarily increasing your workforce, right? Like it's not increasing capability, because to set up an agent to do that is probably not the most cost effective. What I'm saying here is like, not everything needs to be an agent. Agents are really good at reasoning, and they're good at like skills and autonomy. That, what you just described though, Mary, is a little bit more deterministic. So can it be done? Yes. Is it the most optimized? Probably not. You could be getting more for it, is essentially what I'm saying there.
Wonderful. Well, I agree, Lorena. I think we do need a part 2. So let me and Cass go back and see if we can get Jeremy's time again sometime in the future. Thank you guys all again for coming in and onto this meeting today. We really enjoyed it, Jeremy. As always, we really appreciate you, and we'll talk with everyone next time. This will be shared out in YouTube and on an email later on. And if you guys have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
See
you
you guys.
so much. Take care.